All right, we will go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. It is 11:30 here on the East Coast, and I hope everyone had a wonderful weekend. Very happy to see all of you. Thank you to everyone so far who's putting your name and your affiliation or organization in the chat. We ask that you continue to do so. Today, we are in for a great presentation from the Department of Energy, and that is the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. Where we'll learn about an initiative that we can look forward to. But before that, I will pass it to our director, Matt Bogosian, for some announcements and remarks, and then we will go further into our meeting. Thanks, everyone. And Matt, I pass it to you.
Great, Michelle. Thank you. And Michelle, if you don't know it already, Michelle is from the Century Foundation, which is one of our founding partners. And we work with Michelle, the Century Foundation, and the Urban Manufacturing Alliance, and with all of you in trying to figure out how do we strengthen our manufacturing community ecosystems, especially as it relates to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So Michelle, always thank you for your leadership and partnership in all of that work. In terms of, we do have a presentation. As you know, some Monday mornings we have a round robin, some Mondays we have a presentation. We were going to have a round robin today, but we got a request from our friends at the Department of Energy to have a presentation day because they have a really important thing to share. Well, we've talked a little bit about it. I think I have put in the AMCC update a bit about it, but it's super important. So we're going to have a presentation by Christina Walrond of the Department of Energy in a little bit. But before we do that, I just want to highlight a couple of things that are happening that are super important. And if you would put your name and affiliation and even your email in chat so that people can get connected to one another easily. I want to say thanks to the folks that are helping David and I set up AMCC roadshows around the country. We've been in a lot of conversations around the country and invite you to connect with us to set up some, to come visit you all in your jurisdiction. So that's Utah, where we already went, but Connecticut, North Carolina, Florida, Georgia, Rhode Island, Ohio, California, Washington, and others. So please just send David and I a note. We ideally would like to, combine some of these travel visits, in similar region. But we'll see how it goes. So so thanks to all of you for making the effort to do that. We want these visits to be beneficial to you all, to herd the cats in your own region, to advance the work that you want to do. One of the pieces of that work that's super important is getting feedback on developing this manufacturing community ecosystem metrics tool. And so to Linda and her group in Utah and Casey Sanders and all of them have been great in terms of giving us important feedback and helping to make this useful in their region, and we want to do the same across the country. I also want to, as you all know, because we got designated as the nation's manufacturing community of practice, we have some more resources, and we are lucky enough to have as our operations director, David Van Sicklen. One of the things that we're going to be doing is hosting these calls. We've been, for the most part, a voluntary organization all of these years, and friends in different regions have, volunteered their services and help. One of the things that we've been lucky enough to have is support from Utah for hosting the platform. But now we want to do that ourselves, and David can do that. So David, can you say a little bit about how we're going to send out new invitations for these calls?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Happy to. It should be very simple for everyone on the call here. You're going to receive a new calendar invite from my email, which is I've posted it in the chat. You'll receive that in the next day or two at the exact time as this call.
So what do you get after you feel better?
Sorry. So yeah, you'll be receiving an email with the new calendar invite and new Zoom invitation. It should just populate right onto your calendars. But if there's any confusion between now and next Monday, please send me an email. And if there's anyone new that you'd like added to these Monday calls, I'll also be taking that over. So you can send me a message about that as well.
Great, thanks, David. Any questions about that right now? So between now and next Monday, we're going to get a new invitation. And so what's going to happen to the old invitations, David?
Yeah, how do we get rid of it off our calendar?
I believe that will be Melissa who'll be able to delete the recurring meeting for all the participants.
Yes, so you'll receive a meeting cancellation from me and then a new invitation from David.
Yes.
So Melissa, thank you. Hardy, thank you for your help in making this transition work also.
Very welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so without any further ado, let me introduce our speaker from the Department of Energy, Christina Walrond. Now, this is super important time, right? So, you know, we have a BFF from EPA on here, and you know, my past experience with the Environmental Protection Agency. A third of our climate challenge is related to manufacturing, and the manufacturing ecosystem you know, needs to help make this transition to a clean energy economy. A third of the problem is around manufacturing, and we've got to solve for that. And it's a complex problem, but it's a great opportunity. And we are lucky enough. The federal government has several interventions. You know, one of those is around these designation programs. Another one is with demonstration projects. And what we're going to hear about from Christina is about $6 billion now that's available for these kind of low carbon manufacturing projects. So let me just turn it to you. You've heard from Christina in the past, and appreciate you coming on and beginning the conversation about this one. Christina?
Thank you, Matt. Well, it's great to be back, and it's nice to see some familiar faces. You all might remember me from when I was in the Advanced Manufacturing Office at DOE. Now I'm in one of our new offices, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations. I'll give you a little bit of background on that, but I have a few slides. I just wanted to say up front, though, that I think that the purpose of this presentation is really to facilitate a conversation. And so I would welcome, you know, anyone's thoughts or hand raise or however makes sense for you while I'm presenting, or please follow up with me after. And then, you know, I hope that we can have a bit of a conversation after I go through a few of these slides as well. I told Matt that he's welcome to share the slides. There are some links embedded, so we'll make sure to get those out to you. And with that, can you all see?
Yes, we can see.
All right. Okay, so for starters, just the legal disclaimer that we can only discuss publicly available information, especially because we are in the funding process right now, and we have a notice of intent published and are looking at a funding opportunity announcement for this in the March timeframe. So I mentioned that we are a new office. So within the U.S. Department of Energy, the Office of Clean Energy Demonstrations is really intended to fill a gap in mission space, and I'll show you that on a later slide. But you know, we're really focused on clean energy technology demonstration projects at scale in partnership with the private sector. And so the private sector piece, I think, is really critical. We work very closely with industry, but also with communities. And, you know, a really important component of our mission is to accelerate the deployment, market adoption, and the equitable transition to a decarbonized energy system. And so as a part of that, you know, we want to build the first 1, 2, 3, however many of a kind in such a way that the market can pick up and take on the next projects and scale these technologies. Essentially, our role is to sort of absorb some of that market risk that is associated with these new technologies. And the equitable transition piece is really, really critical. So we center communities and community benefits in the work that we do. We have 2 energy justice liaisons within our group who are really focused on this. And we have community benefits integrated into our awards from the very, very beginning. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go along. So we're really a multi-technology office, of which industrial demonstrations is a part. And actually a number of our areas, I think, will meaningfully touch the industrial community. But so, you know, through the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and the Inflation Reduction Act, we're working with about $25 billion. And it sounds like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. I mean, I think we take very seriously the importance of stewarding that funding through. But at the same time, we also know that, you know, given the scale of the challenge, it's not nearly enough to really tackle what we're looking at in terms of making progress on decarbonized energy system, which is why this market uptake component is absolutely critical to our mission. So you'll see here the areas that we are working with. We have the hydrogen hubs and the carbon management parts of our portfolio, which will meaningfully touch our industrial sector as well. Our industrial demonstrations program, which is what I'm here to talk about with you today, about $6.3 billion. And then advanced nuclear, which is also a part of the work that I do, energy storage, and then a couple of place-based efforts, which I would just flag for you. And, you know, my counterpart, Courtney Haynes, works on these, but they're energy improvements in rural or remote areas and clean energy demonstrations on mine lands. So within each of our projects, we really have this approach that we'd like to standardize. And so I think the important thing for you all here is to note that there are these different phases that are integral to execution of a demonstration project that might be awarded through our office. And at each phase, there will be go, no go gates that, you know, in which the communities and the communities will be a part of, the community benefits plan will be a part of the evaluation of these projects. In addition to engineering, procurement and construction, business development, management, permitting and safety, and technical data and analysis. And so as a part of the projects that we're doing, you know, we really take head on, and our leadership will really take head on, that the department hasn't always done large scale projects. Well, there are some major successes, but there are other projects that haven't gone so well. And so we really want to integrate the learnings from those projects that haven't gone as well into what we're doing now. And, you know, really form a demonstration project management center of excellence. And so as a part of that, we'll be having independent reviews at regular intervals of these projects to really see how they're doing. So if we can focus in on the industrial demonstrations program, so we're working with $6.3 billion. And so, you know, what we're really looking for now, based on what the statute directs us towards and what our notice of intent says, is the opportunity to demonstrate transformational technologies to decarbonize energy intensive industries. So we are looking at iron and steel, chemicals, cement, pulp and paper, and other energy intensive industrial processes, so process heat, you know, but really focusing in on those difficult to decarbonize pieces. But there are two other really important components of this. One is to drive a competitive edge for US manufacturers in low and net zero carbon manufacturing, and to build this market for green products. But the community piece is also really critical, and we'll get to that in a minute. So
hey Christina, can I jump in here real quick?
Please.
Just for you know, a lot of the community leaders that are on the call, and I don't want to steal your thunder about what you're going to get to, but Christina and I had a conversation on Friday about this, and one of my takeaways were, you know, some of these key things that are important for the community leaders in AMCC to know, and that and you can correct these takeaways, Christina, later on as you go through. But the folks that would qualify for these you know, distributions, you know, this ballpark of 30 to 70 funding opportunities around the country, around $50 million each, that those who would be getting it would be the manufacturers, operators themselves, and that this thing would be coming out around March. So those are kind of key criteria for our community leaders to kind of get their arms around this opportunity. And the community piece which is a part of the application that manufacturers and operators are going to have to do, is it looks to be super important, but probably not something that those applicants, could do on their own. They're going to need a lot of stakeholder support to do that. So I just want to give that little preview so that people, on the call can realize right off the bat here that this applies to them.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, absolutely. So, one of the reasons that I think that we're here today is that we hope that, there will be industrial facilities in your communities that might be interested in this, and that, we can provide some insight to you on what it's going to look like. I think another really important component is getting your steer, and you'll see that as we go on in the deck, and in helping us, meaningfully evaluate some of the pieces and support communities as we move forward. So as Matt said, we're anticipating the funding opportunity announcement will come out in the March timeframe. Of the 6.3 billion, it sort of remains to be seen how it will be divided up. But I think that, the tens of $1 million scale is the low end for these projects. They're 50-50 cooperative agreements. So, the project overall size will be at least double that. We really are thinking that we're going to be able to support, in the tens of projects. So, that'll be honed in, and it'll depend a little bit on what we get. But I think that, that can provide you with some context. And, as we look at the priority criteria for, what's going to make a good project, what will be one of these projects, we're looking at the decarbonization potential. We're looking at the uptake potential, and then we're also looking at the community piece. So the community piece within the statute of the Inflation Reduction Act, which is the bulk of this funding, says that we should look at creating the greatest benefit for the greatest number of people in nearby communities. And so as a component of that, we're looking at jobs, diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility benefits that flow to disadvantaged communities or underserved and overburdened communities, and reduction in air quality impacts. So I want to get to conversation. We really prioritize energy and environmental justice in our office. We're under the Justice 40 initiative, which is linked here, and you can see some of the pieces and how that's all being evaluated within the department if you click on this link. There's also a tool that can allow you to look at, essentially the mapping of the disadvantaged or, underserved and overburdened communities. So you can click through this link to take a look at it. And then I think really importantly, for all applicants, we require a community benefits plan. And so those plans will require applicants to think through these pieces as they think about their project. And so, we will be also really considering and updating this community benefits plan throughout the project. And then another really important component of what we do is issue guidance documents to really help applicants to these FOAs meaningfully develop their first shot at a community benefits plan that we'll evaluate during, as we look at awarding projects, but then also during project negotiations to really see what that's going to look like moving forward. So I'm going to skip through this and just go to our key questions. So that all kind of brings us to where we are today. And I think that, really wanting to prepare communities and help communities to meaningfully participate in this process, but then also looking for you to help us in terms of the way that we are evaluating these criteria. So I have on this slide the questions that we're really weighing within our office right now, and I would welcome your thoughts on it now, or if you would like to reach out directly, we would be happy to have a one-on-one call, or if there are others within your network, we would love to hear directly from communities and community leaders, of course, who can represent the work that they're doing and the nature of their relationship. But I'll just say that, this isn't meant to be an agenda that, if there's a question here that would really resonate with you, that's the one that we would welcome you to talk through. So, we want to understand what communities' experiences have been like engaging with local industrial facilities. And we know that that will vary. And so it's really of interest to us to hear a wide range of anecdotes and experiences, lived experiences for communities and working with their industrial facilities. And I think that we also want to, understand the nuance between, those who work in the community and in the plant itself, and how their perspective might differ from, others in the community, and also the relationship there. I've mentioned this benefits piece many times. I think that it's a really critical component of both the legislation and what we're trying to do here. So it's helpful for us to understand what communities frame as benefits. And, the pollution reduction of a facility, whether that, essentially is something that your community would consider a benefit from a project like this. And are there any negative impacts that you're concerned about that we may not have thought of? We want to understand what you might need to feel equipped to negotiate workforce and benefits agreements. This area of impact, what you think is the most substantial area of impact. And then, what you think that we should ask someone who's applying for DOE funding to assess their ability to provide community benefits. So with that, just again, want to reiterate, thank you for having me today. Please feel free to reach out. I'd love to get into any of this in more detail. As Matt mentioned, we're coming up on March when this will be put out there, but realistically, we're going to have, a process that goes through the end of this year. These are big projects, so plenty of time, but, know that any insight that you give is something that we're really taking seriously and really want to integrate into the work that we're doing, because we want to get this right. I mean, I think it's really important. It's a lot of money, and we think there's a lot of potential to help people, but communities are really diverse. And so, we're very interested in your thoughts. So if there are any of these questions that you'd like to weigh in on, don't need to take it from the top, but if there's anything, I would really welcome your thoughts.
Hey, Christina, there's some questions coming in. A question that I had too, that Nancy talked about here is there any support for applicants to develop the community benefits plan ahead of their application? And thanks to Jill. Jill, thanks for posting in there an example of a community's benefits plan. But anyway, how about that question, Christina?
Is there any support? Well, let's see. I know Jill's going to be here. We can get back to you perhaps on that one. How about that? Let me take that down.
No worries. That's super important though, because to a lot of regions, right? It's like, how do I help applicants, figure this community benefits piece? So having an example, I think that's good, from the H2 Hubs program. So that could be a guidepost, but also, extra money to help support the applicants. Mike Aller in Florida, you had a question. You want to restate that?
Sure, absolutely. So my question, I guess, was more on whether this money is intended to support decarbonization of existing industrial facilities, as in it's focused on there's an existing refinery or the existing cement plant, and we want to be improving the carbon footprint of that specific facility with the specific processes that are currently used at that facility, or is this more of a kind of earlier stage where we'll be testing out new technologies that may be applicable to a broad range of facilities, but they may or may not be used at any particular facility in the current time frame?
Yeah, so I would say both. There definitely will be an emphasis on existing facilities, retrofits or brownfield development alongside existing facilities. There's also the potential to look at some new types of projects. But our goal is really to hit at this sort of demonstration scale. So anything that we do, we hope to remain in operation, could meaningfully remain in operations. Not to say that all of them will, and not all of them will necessarily be successful, but, at an outset, I think that our goal will really be to support things that we think could have a long operational life. But ideally, there are opportunities for both of those. And I think that, the funding opportunity announcement will have additional granularity. There's some of that in the notice of intent right now too.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Christina. Any other questions? This is a good opportunity. We have a few more minutes. Let's see. One question that came to me in my mind, Christina, and you mentioned brownfields there, is like, how are you guys coordinating with other agencies? You know, we have like EPA has a big brownfields program, for example, and they could be helpful in identifying opportunities and disproportionate impacts in communities that could, you know, strengthen a community benefit application.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a real recognition for us in the need to work across agencies, especially as so many different agencies are touching communities right now. So, you know, we have ongoing contacts with some folks. Obviously, agencies are large, but we have ongoing contacts within the EPA. We also are thinking about, you know, some of the buy clean pieces and also the EPA's efforts around environmental product declarations, I think will be really, really important. So I guess I would say, Matt, you know, I know that you know EPA really well. If there's anyone there that you think that we should be talking to that we might not already be talking to, I would welcome those contacts as well.
Excellent. Okay, we'll do.
And if Christine could put her contact information in chat, or unless it's on the last page of the slides or something.
It is on the last page, but I will add it here. For some reason, I can't get to the chat. Here we go.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, this is just an opening salvo on this conversation, and encourage everyone to think about to look at this community benefits example. That seems like a good first step for all of us, and then you know, either directly, you know, contact Christina or go through David and I, and we can consolidate comments, and we'll just keep this conversation going. This is great. What a great opportunity. I appreciate you coming on, Christina, and being a BFF from the Department of Energy.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Thank you for having us.
That's great. So I'll send it back to you, Michelle, to close out the meeting.
Yeah, thank you so much, Christina. This was really helpful, and I think great questions just to get our communities thinking about this information. So thank you, and thank you for presenting us very early on. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We look forward to meeting again, same time, same place. We wish everyone a wonderful week, and we'll be in touch and see you next Monday. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle.